Hey, it's Tom from Inspiration Metalworks, and in this week's video we're going to go over startup procedures and getting set up to actually run a part on the Hurco mill. Okay, for a little background, I have had a few folks, especially those who are new to Hurco, ask how these things run, how they work, what the controls like, how you actually make parts on them. And to be honest, it's different than other machines that I've run in some ways, and in other ways it's just like any machine, right? There's a startup procedure that you're going to go through. There's setting work coordinate systems, things like that, right? Loading programs. There are some things that are peculiar to the Hurco. There are some things that are unique to the Hurco that I think are very beneficial, but it's really not that complicated. So let's get started. I don't know if I'm going to break this up into multiple videos or just do one long video. It may start out as one long video and get broken up. I don't know yet. But let's go ahead with our normal stuff. I don't know if you can pick it up on the microphone or not. In the background, air compressor is already running. So we're going to walk around to the back of the machine and turn it on, and we'll get things kicked off. So let's go do that. Alright, so we've walked around the back of the machine here. Sorry the mess, it's kind of crazy right now. But anyways, when you look up, you'll see the power switch. This right here. So power's already on at the breaker. So all we'd have to do, flip that guy up. You've turned on power to the machine. You can hear it kicking off, and we'll get started. Okay, so boot process takes a few minutes. It is not like a FANUC control that just fires right up and goes. It is a Windows-based system, so you can actually interact with it if you need to. There's some menus you can get into and things like that. But for the most part, I never touch that. I did go in to enable MT Connect and things like that, but it's really pretty hands-off. Once it's set up, you don't have to mess with it too much. So I'll bring you back. It's not worth keeping the video running for this, and when we're ready to go to the next step. Okay, the controls booted up, and guys, I'm not working off a script. I'm just showing you how I do this every day. Right now, I'll have a little warning here, and you notice I've got the optional second panel here. It is kind of nice because it lets me bring up extended DRO information. There's some controls over here. It does have graphics in here. It'll show you what you're working on. You can do previews, all sorts of things right from this screen. So if you have the option to have that second screen installed, I highly recommend it. I think it's great to have. But basically, the Hurco's going to walk you through what you need to do. It tells you, press manual mode, power, and cycle start to restore power. So your machine modes are down here, right? I think you guys can see that. Let me tilt this down just a little bit so you can see a little bit more of the keyboard and things like that. Okay, so you've got different machine modes: auto, interrupt, single, optional stop, and manual. So I'm going to go into manual mode, and it tells me the control power is off. Pretty straightforward. Press power on, and it tells me servo power is off. Press start cycle to enable servo drives. All right, power's on. My machine is still dark though. I do have lighting, so I'm just going to press the little light button here on my pendant. It takes about, hold it for 3, 4, 5 seconds. Lights on in the machine. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to calibrate our machine. We do this every day. Let me just swing in here for a second so you can see we were parked, right? And so when I press the calibrate button, and I'll do that in just a second, let's make it to where you guys can see what's happening. I think that works. Okay, so calibrate machine button, I pressed it and it tells me press cycle start to begin calibration. Guys, this is just homing, right? Z goes up, XY goes to that back corner, and it gets itself calibrated. Now, one thing that it does 2 calibrations. It will calibrate the axes, and then it's going to calibrate the tool changer. So if you get to this point and you're wondering what's going on, it tells me on the screen now tool magazine will calibrate, press cycle start, and the cycle start button is flashing at me. So I press that button and the tool changer will calibrate. So that's basically it for that part. Okay, we're back at the control. We've done our calibration, you know, takes what, 30 seconds. At this point, I run a warm-up cycle. And what's really cool about this is it's got a built-in warm-up cycle. You don't have to write anything in here. I do two things when I do this warm-up cycle. I let it run and it steps through, but I turn the coolant on as well. It just lets it aerate and cycle through, and helps kind of get thermal stuff going as well. So let's close it up. We don't really have to if we're not going to run the coolant, but we'll close the doors, press the warm-up machine button. You'll notice anytime there's a program ready to run, says cycle start, it flashes at you. You do have to hold this down for a second. That is one slight difference that I've noticed on this versus other controls, but it's not bad. So cycle start, it's going through its cycle at this point. I'm going to turn the coolant on, and it's just, I don't know if it's worth showing you guys, but basically this is my warm-up cycle, right? It just goes back and forth. This thing's moving, and it's going to step through the different RPMs up to the 12,000 that I have. So, at this point, I will bring you back when our warm-up cycle is done. All right. So I've got a piece of stock that I put in. So our next step on this, just go ahead and put a piece of stock in. Now guys, this isn't how I'd normally hold it. I'd probably, believe it or not, since I use these double vices all the time, you know, I'd probably have it somewhere like here, right? Works great. Throw it in there. So let's give it a little tension. And this is not about work holding, right? I'm being very sloppy with this right now, guys. I know this is not about work holding. This is about process. So, right, get this guy tightened up, ready to go. I'm not worried about it. All right, so we've got our stock in place. Next thing I would do is I would call up Tool 99, which is the probe. So let me bring you over to the control so you can see how some of this works. Okay, we're going a little into the shaky cam right now. Man, glare's bad. All right, doing what I can here. But basically what we're gonna do, we're still in manual, right? So that manual button we pressed, still in manual. I'm gonna come up to tool management. And so you've got different ways to do this. You can do a list of all your tools, shows what pockets they're in. You can come into your manual tools, you know, you can scroll around, things like that. But if you already know the number, like in this case, I know we're going to do Tool 99. I come down to the keypad, type in Tool 99, press Enter. Enter is really important on a Hurco control. When you type something in, you have to press Enter for it to actually be applied. So, pretty easy. Move tool to spindle. Verify that it's 0, nothing's in there, and I'm going to press cycle start. Alright, we're ready to start probing. Alright, reposition the camera yet again. So I'm just using the jog wheel, and I'm going to get this thing close to the center point because I'm going to use a rectangular probe on this. So I'm setting my 0 position to be the center, XYZ center, or sorry, the top, XY, and then Z. Z is top, XY is center. You guys get it. I can speak English, I swear. Okay. So what I do is I like to use a known height, and I like to get that thing pretty close. So what I do is I know that parallel is 3/8 tall. So what I do is I bring this thing down to where it's almost touching, and that's reflective from your angle you can't see it, but it's there. And nice part about it is, you know, if I touch it, it's going to stop. It's not going to hurt anything. So I know I'm about 3/8 above right now. Okay. At this point, I'm going to shift you around. We're going to go back to the shaky cam, and I'm going to show you the programming, or show you the control part of all of this. Okay, we're back at the control. And at this point, I'm going to come down to the touch panel here. I'm going to press the input button. Input brings up a different screen, so each one of these are the different kinds of screen buttons you can have up here, right? But input and auto, certain buttons here are going to change what you see on the screen. And so we load programs by using the program manager. You can do tool review. You can actually program right from here if you're doing the conversational stuff. I don't do a whole lot of conversational, even though Hurco is known for its conversational. Most of what I do is from Fusion 360. So anyways, part setup. We are going to look at work offsets, and you can see what our current work offsets are, right? You notice that you don't see a G54 or anything else. You got to keep in mind that there's multiple work coordinate systems in this control. So we're going to go to work offsets, and now you'll see G54 through whatever. You can even, with some of these, you can do skew and all sorts of things. So we're going to do part probing, and there's different parameters in here. Part 0 probe cycles. But we're going to use, there's the skew cycles as well, and then probe deflection offsets and different settings you can do. But we're just going to do it simple. We're going to go to our probing cycles, and we're going to select edge for now. Let's pick up Z first. So you notice we have different things in here. We'll go Z. And it only has one direction it can probe in Z. So we press start probing cycle. It tells you to press cycle start. We come over here, press the button, and it touches off the top of our part. Now, once it's done, you'll get a menu that says, hey, we're done. This is what we have. You want to accept this? I'm going to say yes. Okay. We are now set. That's in place. If I exit out of here and exit back to our work offsets page, you'll see now that it's here. So let's say that I had probed it, but our actual part work coordinate system was going to be 50 thou below that. Well, I would come in here and I can use the arrow keys. Sorry. I know it's shaky cam, use arrow keys and numbers, but basically I could come in here and tell it that we're actually going to go 50 thousandths deeper than that, so that would be 136. So I would type in 136 and I use the delete key to get rid of the rest of that. Remember, enter. You have to press enter at that point, otherwise you don't get anything. So that would be 50 thou below. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go back, exit. Oh, actually, no. Let's look at that. So you see how it says 21, 136, 1. Okay, so that's our machine coordinate. If we look over here, you know, it's telling us right now that this is how far above it we are, and our Z is at 13 because that's got our offset for the tool. Now I'm going to go back into that part probing. We're going to do part 0, edge, we're still at Z, we're going to run it again, and we're going to watch what happens on this screen now. So on the DRO side of things, it's there, it tells me that I'm 50 thou off, right? There was that 50 thou that I manually put in. When I say yes, you'll see that it just changed and automatically updated. Pretty straightforward. All machines do this. This is not special. You guys got this. If you want to learn how to use the Hurco, it is pretty easy to do. Okay, so we are doing rectangular solid outside. We have to tell it how big it is. Now, I measured this part, the stock, to be 9 inches by 4 inches by 1 inch tall, right? So probing length. If we typed in 9 inches, it would try to go down right at 9 inches. That's not any clearance. So let's tell this that we want it to go 10.5 in X, enter, right? We'll do 5.5 inches in Y. Now we're at 383 above the part right now. And I want to come down a ½ inch from that. So we're going to say minus 0.884, right? So, because it's 383.7 is what it read. So minus 884 from where I'm at right now. So that's not based on the Z height. That's based on where the probe is right now. We press start. Bring us back over here, and when I press cycle start, it's going to go through and do a very familiar probing cycle that you guys have seen, I'm sure, many, many times on different channels. So we're picking up our X first. Now, the default on this, I think you can be on your sizes. If it's expecting to be at a certain size, I want to say it's like 10 millimeters. You can be off on this, and also your tool setter as well. All right, it's got that. We come back to our screen. You'll see it tells us where everything is, and it tells me that I was actually 8.924 in length, and I'm about 4/10 under in Y. So yes, and there we are. Our work coordinate system is now set. It tells me XY0 is there, and our Z height is all set. At this point, exit. And you don't really have to completely exit out, because I want to clear this tool out of the spindle. I don't want it sitting here with the battery going. So I go back to that manual button, tool management, and I can just press clear tool in spindle. It tells me to press cycle start. Let's put this bad boy away. And with that, we have now completed our probing lesson. Our next task in this is actually to do some tool setup. Actually, let's go back in here for a second so we can look at what's already in the machine. And there's a page up, page down buttons. You can do arrows as well. But this shows everything that's in my machine right now. Let's take a look at tool 15. So I select the tool, move tool spindle. It's verifying that the spindle's empty. It is empty. I press the button. We get a tool change. Now, one thing I like about this side load, typically it's going to it'll preload the tool and have it ready to go. So it's in this next station. When you're just randomly grabbing, well, you know, it's a little slow. Well, it's not terribly slow. I just got really spoiled on other machines that were like 1 second chip to chip. But anyways, let's go back. So we're taking a look. Here's our tool. We'll do tool setup, and you'll notice we give it a tool number. There's different kinds of tools, and notice contextually it changes as you click, select something. It changes, and you can plug a mouse into this, by the way, guys. And I don't know if I didn't show this to you, but there is a keyboard, and it's got a little ball mouse and stuff like that. So there is a lot more in here. But anyways, it's a drill. That's the size. Tool cal length. It's telling me that it's 7.2023, and P means that it's probed. But let's say that I didn't know what it was. What would I do? Or I've just put a new tool in here, for instance. So I'm going to come in here to more. I'm going to tool probing. And the first thing, when you come in here, it's not going to have anything in here, right? You have to tell it something. So the first thing you have to do is, what kind of cycle am I doing? In this case, I'm doing length. So just length, no problem. Most of this stuff I don't have to worry about. The only big thing here is this length. And so I have something in here, but let's say I just replaced the drill. They got dull, I swapped the drill out, and I'm gonna make a change here. So I'm gonna measure, and you do it from, when you're taking your measurement, actually, I'll show you guys how I do this. Sorry about the setup here. Okay, I grab my tape measure. I come in here to the tool holder. Can you guys see? Should be just high enough. And I'm just getting a close, estimate here. I'm gonna say like 7 1/4, right? So I measured it at 7 1/4. So I'm gonna type in 7.25, and remember, enter. Notice the P went away, right? It's measured. You have to be about within 10 millimeters, right? Well, 10 millimeters is, it's a pretty wide number on this. So you just have to be close. It doesn't have to be perfect. You notice you can do sister tools and all kinds of things. I don't do that. You can tell it to be part of multi-tool probing. So if you have a job where you want it to just, every time that you run this job, you're going to do a multi-tool probe where you just press the button and it sets all of your tools for you. You can do that. It is kind of nice, and I do that for certain jobs. So at this point, let's probe current tool now. So I press probe current tool, we come over here, and big surprise, it moves over, rapids to where it's pretty close, comes down and touches off. You guys have seen this before, I'm sure. All right, we are set, and oh, look at that, it's 2/10. I think it was 203 something, I forget what it was, but it came up a little different. So cool. I'm gonna press enter just to be, careful about stuff like that. But I mean, that's really it. Set your tools, get your tools ready to go. You're ready for the next step, which is to load your program. All right, out of habit, I clear the tool out of the spindle and I exit out of here. But I'm gonna go down now to that input button again, right? Input. And remember I said we go to Program Manager to manage our files. These are all programs that are already loaded up in this machine. You can use USB. I have network set up here. You can save files directly to the hard drive. One thing to note about Hurco's control is you should always pull files into the control. You don't want to try and push a file from your computer into the machine. It does not like that at all. File permissions and things like that. It doesn't work well. I'm going to open, and you can see this is all my actual network stuff, right? So yeah, please don't do anything crazy. And I was just working on this thing, and let me think. This guy here, there it is. I'm gonna load it, and it says, hey, it was already loaded. You sure you want to do this? I'm just gonna say yes. Now one thing is, it's here in the list, and it's highlighted. So the file that's highlighted is the one that you're gonna be working with. If I say, at this point, if I just press the enter key, it goes into an editor, right? And I can take a look at this file and figure out what it's doing. So it's going to use tool 3, which is just a flat end mill. Let's use tool 14, right? Pretty straightforward. I can scroll down. Not a whole lot going on this one, right? So I forget what I was doing on this particular one, but that's okay. We'll work with it. We'll exit. And at this point, we are ready to go. So I will press the auto button. In the machine mode down at the bottom, we'll press the, I don't know, I guess you guys might want to see it, but press the auto button and we get a new setup. Now, one of the things that I love about this control is the dry run button, right? Dry run lets you do just that. Test it. How high do we want to go above Z? I'm going to say 1 inch. Press enter, at which point it's ready to run. Now I'm going to stop this and go back to that auto, because the first thing I want to do is just check for errors. Will this thing actually even run? It says it'll run. Okay. Again, I'm not even certain what this program is, but since I know that we're going to be 1 inch above, I'm not too worried about it. We're okay. So let's run it. I'm going to turn my rapids down though to about 50%. Okay, I'm going to press run, select start. It prompts me to verify that the spindle is empty, and I've got my finger over the feed hold button because, well, let's not ruin things. Okay, I paused it. I'm looking at my screen here and it's telling me that I've got about 300 to go. Yeah, that should be okay. I'll let it go down. Okay, so all we were doing is a contour pass on this. So you can see that it's coming through and running this part. Now what's nice is I'm going to press that feed hold again, and I'm going to get a 1, 2, 3 block out. And I'm going to verify that, hey, that's right. Okay, good. Just barely fit under there. Perfect. Things are working to plan. But you can also let it run through, and it's going to run through its whole program, and you can make sure that, yes, it's actually where you expected it to be. You didn't have a contour selected on the wrong side, especially on a chamfer, right? Where you're supposed to be doing a 5 thou chamfer, and you're on the wrong side of the contour, and you're doing a 300 thou chamfer, right? So this was obviously for a slightly longer part, yeah, you guys get the idea. And so I'm just going to go ahead and show you one other neat feature about this while we're at it. We're in the dry run, but this is really cool, and this is one of those unique features that I was talking about earlier. Interrupt button. I love this button. Watch what happens when I press interrupt. It stops. It pauses. I can then, if I need to, I can jog the part towards me. I can do a measurement, whatever else. When I'm done, I come back to auto. It tells me to press cycle start again. We come back here. When I press cycle start, it picks up where it left off. I mean, how cool is that? I didn't have to do anything special. It'll fire up the spindle and everything. We're in dry run, so it's not running any of the other stuff. But, I mean, to me, that is one of the coolest features of the control, and I use it all the time, right? Especially if I'm trying to make sure, if I'm concerned about chip buildup or whatever else, I can just come in, I can pause it real quick, blow it off, look at the tool, make sure the tool doesn't have a chip stuck to it or something like that. Once I'm satisfied, pick it right back off where it left off. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and just stop this because it's not doing us any good. And your pop quiz on this one is, can you remember, I showed you how to do this, what did I just do to clear the tool in the spindle? Give you 5 seconds to think about it. Right, I pressed manual and I went to the tools and I pressed the clear tool in spindle button. Pretty straightforward, huh? All right, that's it. All right, there's a lot more that we could go into, go in depth on the control itself. But the basics here, right, the important part, and what I was asked to show is, once you've got your program out of Fusion, what do you do with it? How does it work in the Hurco? And that's what we did. We just to recap, we walked through turning the machine on, initializing the machine. We did a warm-up cycle. We added a work coordinate system. So we did probing. We checked on tools and made sure our tools were right. Adding a tool is the same process, by the way. You just type something in new and you're adding it in new. We did tool probing, tool detection. We loaded a file. Closing is the same way, by the way, guys. You go to that same program manager. So we loaded a file. We did a dry run to test everything out. The only other thing that you could do, we checked for errors. You can even do simulation, things like that. I didn't show that in this, but check for errors. And then lastly, the last step really is just to run that program and let it go. So guys, it's not complicated. You can do this. If you like this kind of video, let me know. I'll make more of them. Just need the feedback. Anyways, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And I'll see you again real soon.